It was a goddamn nightmare, is really what it was. I'm back. It's been forever. And hello from Paris. I'm here. And it's been sort of a trip. And that is both a trip and a trip. So I'm going to dive right in and start from the beginning, leaving Los Angeles en route to New York. Now, I normally would have flown directly from Los Angeles to Paris, but because of Jackie and my not having any experience with her on an airplane, I was concerned about a 13-hour flight plus, the 3 hours in the airport, another hour to get out. So good friend had offered a place at the Phillips Club in New York, and I thought, why not? It'll give me an opportunity to go to one of my favorite restaurants. So Lupe, who accompanied me not only on the trip, but also stayed 2 weeks to get me sort of settled in. So we have arrived at the airport, and I dutifully gave Jackie a pill that the vet told me to give her to keep her calm. So it is a very early morning flight. I think we were leaving at like 7:15 in the morning. And because I have so many miles on JetBlue, we were in business class, which actually was very empty. Very few people were on it. And so, we took off and took her out of her case, had her on my lap, and had wee wee pads on my lap when she had the worst case of diarrhea.
Oh, that's disgusting.
I couldn't grab enough of it. It went everywhere. I had a brand new light gray, one of those puffer coats from Uniqlo, and I grabbed, which was soaked with her. I grabbed her, brought her into the bathroom, tried to clean her up as much as possible. And when I came out, of course, it was obvious I was wearing a gray cashmere sweatsuit, and I had poop on the legs. It was a bloody mess. People couldn't have been nicer. There was a lovely gal who was some kind of recording artist because she was singing to the staff, but they really were so understanding, and I was devastated. So they closed off that particular bathroom. They taped across the seat I was in. I had to shove the gray coat into a plastic bag, and they stuck us in the back of business class, which was fine. But I was so upset because Jackie was upset, and I cleaned her to an extent, but not enough. And it was a goddamn nightmare, is really what it was. So we arrived, and I listened to this limo service who said I needed a Sprinter. What the hell do I know about a Sprinter? I needed a Sprinter. So I thought it was some kind of SUV.
But I was wrong.
And this bus holding at least 15 to 20 people pulls up. And I was livid because I saw dollar signs flying out of those God blessed windows. They had really worked me over, and I got them through the hotel. So I was really shocked. Well, I made them stop at Uniqlo on Fifth Avenue, and I ran inside because I had no coat. So I grabbed whatever coat was there, quickly paid. It was so cold in New York coming from LA. I was freezing. But things did calm down once we were there, and I was able to actually wash out the sweatsuit was straight into the garbage. So we were there over the weekend, and we left on Sunday morning, and we flew on an airline that is all business class and caters to having a lot of dogs. And interestingly enough, again, this flight had very few people, and Jackie was the only dog on board. And it was, going from New York, it's not nearly as tough as going from Los Angeles. So, it was a very uneventful flight. Jackie was perfectly fine with no drugs and had no problem whatsoever. But I have to tell you about the service once we got there. So, have to use a wheelchair. So, the sky cap came with the wheelchair, and in my life, I've never seen anyone do this with all the travel I have done. He wheeled us through. We got to passport control. All the grief I went through to get Jackie her documents, her paperwork, and the shots and the certification from the USDA and the whole 9 yards, and no one even asked to see this very expensive documentation. And from there, he rolled us into baggage and immediately went and got two trolleys. Lupe and I are looking at each other. Oh my God, does this really mean we don't have to schlep these big bags? He got all the bags, put them on the trolley, rolled us out, waited for the car to come, loaded the car. It was the most extraordinary service I had ever gotten. So we are on our way to this temporary apartment, and I look at my messages. Everything is very last minute for security reasons. I didn't get the address to the day before. And that very morning, I'm getting the directions, and I find out that the key, we're not being greeted by anyone. The key is at some lockbox in a grocery store. And the limo driver was really ticked off that he had to make this stop. So now 8 pieces of luggage, I mean, 6 of them were mine. And he drops us off, and we put the bags inside the lobby. And for the life of us, we cannot figure out how to get to where I'm supposed to go. Now, mind you, I do want to say this. Let me just back up. The elevators in the older buildings in Paris are afterthoughts. So at best, they may hold 3 very tiny, very skinny people. And that's not an exaggeration. So it said we were on the 4th floor. So I went up to the 4th floor, and Lupe starts to send the luggage up, and I'm opening and getting all the luggage all together. And I try my key in a door, and an elderly woman opens the door, and I realize I have the wrong apartment.
That just invalidates all our effort.
And I apologize in English, and she just slams the door. And then the other door, I tried to put the key in that, and that wasn't working. In the meantime, there are now 8 pieces of luggage in a hallway that very narrow. So now I call the agent that literally down the street, just a few doors down. We bring the luggage all the way down again because clearly this isn't the right floor. And he can't figure out how to go to where we're going either. So finally, he figures this out. I don't know how to explain this. This is a building, but it has 2 entrances. And so instead of giving us the entrance on the small back street, which is how you gained access to the apartments on that side of the building, they gave us the mailing address. So in order to get to where we needed to go, we put the luggage to go to the 1st floor. At the 1st floor, we gathered the luggage, walked down a very long hallway. Now, also, in order to conserve electricity, the lights only go on when you press a button. And you better hoof it pretty quickly because the lights will go off before we reach the end. Then we were in the dark again. Then you go through another door. Then there's another elevator that load the luggage up and go up to the 4th floor. Can you imagine after 3 hours, an hour to the airport, 3 hours sitting in the airport, and a 7-hour flight, whatever it was, and having an annoyed driver, I was ready to kill. And we finally get and open up the door, and I take one look at this apartment, and I said, oh my God, this is a hole personified. pull 2.0. I could feel the floors not being even. It was horrible. And of course, I called and carried on, and they didn't have anything else. And this went on and on and on and on. And so I don't know what to say, but I ended up there. Lupe stayed for the 2 weeks, and I ended up there another 10 days, during which time I found an apartment not in the area I thought I wanted, because truth be told, I was so insistent on the third arrondissement, and actually this particular apartment that I was in was directly across the street from the beginning of the third arrondissement. And we started to spend time going around to the places, and the streets were kind of iffy. You'd have a really good street, and the next street looked a little seedy. It just didn't seem to be what I remembered it being. And so Jay, my realtor, we met for coffee I think just couple days after I arrived. And he said, I'd really like you to look at the 6th, which I was familiar with, but not the back streets. I mean, I was familiar with the Boulevard Saint Germain, where Cafe Flore and Ralph Lauren is. I didn't know about the back areas. And he explained and talked about the um, positives that area offered. And one of which is I would be able to find more buildings that had an elevator, which is an absolute requirement for me. So about 10 days later, and I mean, I was freaking out. I mean, if I had to stay in this hellhole for the full 2 months that I rented it, I would have put a gun to my head. It was the kind of area, just highly tourist near the Pompidou. Once Lupe left, I didn't go out at night. I didn't want to go out at night. And I will tell you that when we arrived, it was cold and it was damp and it was rainy and it was gray, and I kept crying and screaming, what have I done? What have I done? What have I done? What am I doing here? And then Jay mentioned an apartment that had come up very quickly, and we went over to see it, and it was smaller than what I wanted, and it was quite contemporary and not that wonderful vintage, glorious moldings and all of that I so adore. But after we saw the apartment, we walked around the corner and walked the neighborhood, and I said, I want the apartment. The neighborhood that I am in is absolutely spectacular. Everything is at my fingertips. It's maybe a bit noisy, but I'm sort of accustomed to that. But it's very lively. I've got 3 movie theaters, one across the street, one next door, and one on the other side of the street. Cafes galore, a few blocks from the Luxembourg Gardens, and I am walking everywhere. So, what I have really tried doing is poking around in my immediate area. Of course, I had to find who's going to do my hair, who's going to do my nails, where do I find things, where do I go to the market. All of it has just fallen into place. So, what I wanted to do for the first few weeks that I am back with you is pretty much just go through my experience of making the move. So today, I really wanted to just tell you about the flights over and the experience in a kind of an Airbnb. It isn't exactly that because so many people are doing it, so many companies. I thought I chose one that had, really good Trustpilot rating, and they were okay. Don't misunderstand me in terms of trying to accommodate me, but they just don't have the kind of places that I would have wanted to be in. So, having said that, I'm looking forward to bringing you up to date for phase 2 of my move over. I thank you for tuning in. I know I've been away a long time, so I hope I'm back on your schedule and you know the drill. And oh, by the way, I do congratulate those people who entered our raffle and got the wonderful bag and hand sanitizer spray. So, congratulations to our 3 winners. In the meantime, you do know the drill. So, please subscribe if you haven't and kindly share us with your friends and family and make sure you hit the notification bell so that you are made aware of when I am coming on. It'll be weekly as of right now. I'm not sure exactly what day it will be, but if you hit the notification bell, you'll be advised. And also go down into the description box and make sure you click on my blog, which is coming out every week on Sunday. And, do leave me comments. I love it when you do. So, in the meantime, be well, look after yourselves, and thank you again. Bye now.